Today I want to talk about one of the most impactful self-help books that I've read. Now, if you are interested at all in personal development or self-improvement, you probably have heard of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. The fact that this book was almost published 40 years ago, yet people are still talking about it today, is a testament to how influential and relevant Stephen Covey's 7 Habits are. For me personally, this book has a little special place in my heart because this was actually the very first self-help book that I read a few years back, and it was kind of the inauguration for me into the self-help world. So in today's video, I want to share with you some of the best ideas and learnings that I gained from reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And to achieve this goal, I'm actually going to be borrowing some help from Shortform, who is the sponsor of today's video. As you may recall, Shortform is an online learning platform that gives you access to high-quality book summaries to nonfiction books. So think of topics like personal finance, self-help, relationships, basically anything that I like to talk about on this channel. And because The 7 Habits is a book that fits into these categories, naturally Shortform is going to have a summary of that. And I'm not gonna lie, reading Shortform's summary of The 7 Habits has been very great for me because A, it's a great refresher because I haven't read the book in a while, but B, Shortform actually adds new insights that the book itself may not have included. So sometimes when I'm reading about a specific section of the book, I'll notice that there is a little short form note that maybe can draw a parallel from another idea or maybe another self-help book. So I'm definitely going to be sharing some of that in today's video. Now, before I actually dive into what the 7 habits of highly effective people are, I think it's important to first define A, what a habit is, and B, what effective means. So first, habits are like a pattern of behaviors that are pretty much ingrained into your subconscious at this point. When I think of a habit, it's something that I typically don't give much thought to. Something like drinking water right after I get out of bed. That means by definition, habits are not a one-time thing. You can't just do something once and hope that it'll fix all of your problems. Just like how even if you just eat a vegetable once, it won't offset all the calories that you consumed over the years from fried chicken. So when I mention the 7 habits here, these aren't actions that you just perform once. You will probably have to perform them over and over again for years on end before you can truly reap the benefits. Now, what does it mean to be effective? Now, you might feel like you're a computer or some kind of machine when you're called effective, but what effective really means is just that you're able to produce beneficial results for long periods of time. So basically being able to perform and reap some sort of benefit at a sustainable pace where you will never feel burnt out. So the example that Covey uses is a story of a farmer who found a golden goose. Now he noticed that this goose can actually lay golden eggs. So these eggs are made of pure gold and he could probably just make a lot of money from selling them. So this farmer noticed that once a day this goose would lay out a golden egg. He would harvest that egg and then go sell it. But after a certain amount of time, he started to get greedy and he wanted more eggs in a day than just one. So what he ends up doing is actually killing the goose just to find that there were no eggs in that goose. So what he basically did was destroy the system that produced this output that he was looking for. So what's the lesson here? A, you don't want to be greedy. And B, you don't want to emphasize or try to maximize efficiency over effectiveness. You don't want to go past the threshold of what is considered sustainable and burn yourself out or burn whatever system is out. So if you're a boss at a company and you want your employees to do the best work they can do without burning them out, you gotta try to kind of pull the strings a bit and see how much output they can really produce without burning themselves out. So this could mean giving them better benefits, giving them a better work-life balance, allowing them to be themselves, and fostering a culture that allows them to do just that. So the first 3 of the 7 habits are actually focused on promoting independence. And you guys probably know what independence is. It's like being an adult and being able to form your own original thoughts, not just being like a child and repeating whatever your parent says to you like a parrot. But independence here isn't the goal of the 7 habits. Independence is only the goal of the 3. So the next 3 habits, habits 4 to 6, actually promote interdependence. So now you may ask, okay, what is the difference between independence and interdependence? Great question. Interdependence is actually after you've achieved independence and you recognize that you are a person with your own sentient thoughts and you can have your own opinions and own beliefs, but you also recognize the value in other ideas and other kinds of beliefs and other solutions that may exist to a problem. So interdependence is crucial when it comes to organizations and solving bigger problems that exist beyond the individual. So think about any major issue that is going on in the world today. Climate change, war, you get the gist. But before I go any further, let's just talk about the habits. Habit number 1 is taking initiative or taking responsibility. So this means having accountability over your own life, not blaming other people for your own problems, that kind of stuff. So while we can't always control external factors like the weather or a global pandemic, we can always use our brains to figure out what we can do that is within our locus of control. So if you're going to be going out one day and you know the weather isn't going to be great, instead of cursing the world for not bringing better weather, you could always bring an umbrella or, wear warmer clothes. So taking initiative or taking responsibility isn't really about just controlling everything. It's about controlling what you can control. And if this reminds you of a trait that a stoic person would have, yeah, I would kind of agree with that. Number 2 is envisioning the life that you want. So obviously being effective is great and all, but that doesn't really mean anything until you actually have a goal to apply those effective habits towards. Why are you going to take initiative and work out more often? Is it because you want to lose 10 pounds? Is it because you want to be a healthier person? Is it because you want to be able to fit in a smaller size? It's a good idea to recognize the goal and which way you are headed before you actually start putting in effort. The analogy that Stephen Covey uses is you want to make sure you're in the right forest before you start hacking away at the trees. Now at this point, you might be thinking, well, what if I don't have a goal? And you know what? That's a very good answer because some people just don't work that way. One person might just see their end goal and reverse engineer their way back to understand what they need to do today. And others are kind of like, what are some actions that I can take today? Or what are some things that I can do now? And then eventually, organically, see what comes next. So short form actually took this into account and got something from organizational psychologist Benjamin Hardy. And Benjamin Hardy suggests that if you are the second type of person where you don't have that goal, you could always think about what you would do if you only had 1 month to live. Understanding the answers of what you would do immediately can kind of give you an idea of what you might want to do years from now. The point is to truly envision the life that you want. It will take a bit of introspection as well as understanding your roles. What are some areas in your life that you would like to improve? Is it being healthier? Is it being a better parent? Is it being a better friend? Once you have these ideas in mind, I think it's easier to create small goals in each area of your life. Habit number 3 is what Stephen Covey calls putting first things first. But in layman's terms, it basically means being able to prioritize your tasks properly. And this is based on a level of importance and the level of time urgency. Non-important and non-urgent tasks are generally things that you want to minimize, such as watching too much TV or spending too much time on social media. On the other hand, you don't want to work on tasks that are super important and also have a super urgent deadline. Like obviously, if you have an essay due the next day, you will probably want to work on that. But that probably isn't the most effective way to do it. Chances are you're focused more on speed than you are actually on doing the assignment right. So the best quadrant that you would like to be in is focusing on what is important and what is not urgent. So that means giving yourself ample time to plan ahead and prepare for any unexpected circumstances that may come along so that they don't actually become unexpected. You expect the unexpected. And now we talk about habits 4 through 6, which will enable you to achieve interpersonal success. That means if you want to improve relationships with other people or maybe achieve some sort of desired result that includes other people, these habits will help you do just that. Habit number 4 is thinking of mutually beneficial solutions for both parties involved. So instead of thinking of an interaction between two people like a competition where it's only win-lose, try to think of it as a win-win. Trying to find a win-win solution can be great because ultimately it builds a better relationship between you and the other party. Let's say you just started a freelancing business for social media content creation. You finally found a client who's willing to pay you for your services. So instead of trying to charge as high of a price as possible just so you can make a profit, you actually decide to give them a discount because you want them to be a long-term partner. This would be considered a win-win because you build a relationship with a client and they may in turn refer you to other clients that may need your services, while they're able to get social media content at a discounted price. So the idea behind win-win is that you have an abundance mindset, meaning that there's enough success, there's enough money, there's enough happiness to go around for everyone. Seeing someone else succeed should not take away from any success that you would have in the future. Now, in order to achieve a win-win situation, we have to go to habit number 5, which is seeking to understand before you are understood. It's very common to just express your opinion and tell everyone what you want and just look for yourself. That's probably the most selfish way to do it, and although at the end of the day you are looking out for yourself, you kind of have to play the game a little bit. Not everyone's going to be willing to help you out of the goodness of their heart, and more oftentimes than not, there's got to be some sort of self-interest involved. You have to give the other person a reason to help you. And in order to do that, you first have to figure out what their motivations are. It's kind of like when you're interviewing for a job. They're not just interviewing for a candidate, but you're actually interviewing for an employer. You want to make sure that you're going to be treated well as an employee and you're going to be doing stuff at the job that you would actually enjoy. During the interview process, you get to find out a little more about what kind of problems the company is facing, and you can use that to your advantage by matching your skill set to their issues. For example, if you find out that a company has trouble staying organized, you can use an example or work experience where you use Excel or some sort of bookkeeping solution just to keep your records straight. Being an introvert, this comes a little bit easier to me than to other people, but overall an important quality or an important skill to have in the workplace is to be able to listen. Listening and empathizing with other people's problems is such a surefire way to improve your relationship with them, and consequentially they'll be helping you when the time comes. Okay, now that you've decided to be win-win, and you've decided that you're going to seek to understand, that means you're going to listen before you speak. Now it's time for habit number 6, which is actually combining those two together and seeking those mutually beneficial solutions. This is when there are high levels of trust, clear communication patterns, lots of empathizing, lots of active listening, and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the team. This way, when you guys work together, you aren't just the sum of your parts, you're actually something greater. You're a team, a well-functioning team. So the thing to notice about habits 4 to 6 is that they're very much internally focused ways of achieving interpersonal success. So think about it. Habit 4 is about win-win. So I'm thinking win-win. It doesn't necessarily mean that the other person is going to have the same mindset as you. So then a next logical question would be, are there external ways to influence or maybe even manipulate people into doing the things that you want? And the answer is yes. This can be common with business people or salespeople. Maybe that's why business kids are snakes. But I have some examples for you and I'm going to share them. Well, short form found them, but I'm going to share you what short form said. The first one we have is reciprocity. So if you do something nice for someone, they in return may feel compelled to do something nice for you. It's like a quid pro quo. There it is. If you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And it's kind of that transactional relationship you got going on. Another example is commitment or consistency. So let's say you want someone to join the gym with you. You might not ask them to join a gym with you right away, And instead, it might be smart to just start with a very small favor. Something so small that they can barely perceive it as an inconvenience, like going on a walk. So let's say you guys go on a walk and then sometime later you start going on runs together, and then you start lifting weights and talking about other fitness related stuff. Eventually you'll get to a point where this person is actually in the mood or feels motivated enough to join a gym with you. So it's really about getting someone to commit to something very minor, very small, and then over time asking incrementally larger requests. And in a way, it can be manipulative depending on what kind of motives you have for that person. On the other hand, if you are on the receiving end of these little small tasks, then now you're aware and you can actually act accordingly. And then there are other tactics that can be used in marketing, like scarcity, social proof, authority, anchoring, etc. But you can check those out. Now finally, we have habit number 7. So the first 3 habits we talked about cultivate independence, 4 to 6 help cultivate interdependence, and now to wrap it all up and tie it with a bow, habit 7 is about self-renewal, or as Stephen Covey calls it, sharpening the saw. Resharpening the saw, actually. So earlier I talked about an example about being in the right forest before you start cutting down the trees. Well, the saw is what you're using to cut down the trees. So what habit 7 basically means is, are you properly taking care of yourself so that you can continue the same type of output that you've been putting out? So how do you do this? You look at the different areas of your life. You look at the different dimensions of health: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, occupational, etc. If you feel like one area is lacking, then it's time to sit back and try to reevaluate how you're going to improve in that area. If you haven't been eating or sleeping properly, it's time to take a step back and try to tend to that. Start eating more, start sleeping more. When you're consistently resharpening your saw, you're basically participating in self-care. You're making sure that you don't get burnt out so that you can actually continue doing what you want for a long period of time. After all, that's what effectiveness is defined as. Now, I have to say I really enjoyed reading this book in the first place because it gave me a pretty solid framework on how to improve myself and the way I think about independence and interdependence. After all, the goal of the human experience, in my opinion, is to be able to have healthy and fulfilling relationships that go beyond just myself. So the goal of this video was to maybe convince you to read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or even go on short form and check it out, because there's still a lot more information that I didn't include from the short form summary guide. But also I just want to show that success can be either independent or interdependent. I know the term self-help can be a bit misleading at times because ultimately we are not just a singular unit. We humans as a species need to be able to collaborate together and work together to truly thrive. So although this book is positioned as a self-help book, it's really about improving other people's lives as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Do you think that these habits are actually helping us become better people? Or maybe is it too idealistic, too unrealistic? Maybe too focused on ourselves and not enough about how we can improve others' lives? I'm curious to hear it all, and feel free to let me know in the comments below. And until next time, take it easy.